Welcome to Everything is Learning, a space for curiosity, growth, and figuring things out as we go. We're glad you're here. Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome back to Everything is Learning. Today we are incredibly excited to welcome Kellie to the show. Kellie is the mother of 3 adult children. She is a full-time yoga instructor, a Pushcart-nominated writer, songwriter, assistant editor-in-chief of Faineant Press, and the first AD on the TV series Deep End. She also has a YouTube channel where she conducts interviews with creatives from all across the world. We've asked Kellie to come today to talk about the importance of finding yourself again after becoming a parent. Welcome, Kellie. Thanks so much for being here.
Yay! I'm super excited. I think you guys do an incredible job and you're tapping into something that's really important in society in particular. So I'm really, really honored actually that you asked me.
Oh,
So
that
kind.
is so cool. We're so happy to have you here. Um, let's break the ice. So you know us better than most guests. Kellie is my yogi. What yoga poses would Marissa and I be if we were yoga poses, and why? And which one would you be?
Oh, that's interesting. I am honestly, this was an easy one for me. So Utkatasana, which means fierce pose, is you, Elena. Um,
Utkatasana, huh?
Utkatasana, yes.
I think I'm going to change my name in my phone to that for Elena.
Please do.
Utkatasana.
I gladly accept.
It is so you. So it is a very challenging pose. It is not an easy pose. It is a necessary pose. It tells the truth. It requires alignment. It requires strength, but it also builds strength and character. So I very much feel that you are someone who is strong, who has incredible insight, who constantly challenges themselves. And I think that that is a very cool thing to be. And it's fierce pose. And I like the name of it. They call it chair. If you want to know what, where you sit with your knees bent and you're all bent, we've done it before.
Okay.
Building those thighs, building those muscles and balance and structure. Um, I think that's the best that describes you. And
Nice.
Marissa, yours would be humble warrior. So you'll come into warrior
Oh,
one, you'll clasp the hands behind the back, and you bow forward. You are someone with a lot of internal strength, a lot of
That's very kind.
fortitude, balance, beauty, grace. There is a gracefulness about you, an understanding, a humbleness, humble warrior, meaning you're fighting, but you're also learning and able to accept the winds of change in your life and how you handle it is with grace.
That's so beautiful. I'm going to cry before the interview
I
even
know. I
starts.
love that for
That was so
you.
kind. Thank you. So, what would
All
your
right.
pose be?
Tell us.
That's hard. What's my favorite? Probably would be Trikonasana or triangle pose. And here's why. Super strong foundation. The foundation is so sturdy and strong, but then the upper part is all spread out. So I like to be very stable, really nice routine, all the basics taken care of, and then have the most fun I could possibly have on top.
That tracks.
Yes, that absolutely tracks.
I am like the mullet of human beings. This in the
Wow.
front, party in the back. So that's
Love
kind
that
of
so much.
I'm definitely Trikonasana. It's also a really great, fun pose to do. I could do it for a long time. It's one that comes easily, and sometimes it feels good to just do something that feels easy. That's
Yeah,
fun.
especially
Yeah.
when it comes to parenting and raising humans and raising ourselves. Um, I like easy for moments when I'm just completely burned out.
Yep.
He's good.
Yeah, for sure. And given that not everyone knows you as well as we do, but something that we know is a core value and purpose to you, why can you tell us and our listeners, why do you believe raising humans starts with raising ourselves?
That's a good one. I actually believe, and my core belief is that your children learn how to adult by looking at you, not by how you parent, but by how you adult. So in order to raise kids, you do have to have your shit together on some level. You have to understand that what you're doing and how you're showing up and presenting every day is all they're seeing. They can't read your mind. They can't know your values every second of the day, but they can watch you live your values. They can watch how you treat other people. So
Yeah.
getting yourself, the old oxygen mask on yourself type of thing, getting yourself as healthy as you can't always be. That's an unrealistic expectation. But what you can show them is how to be resilient in the face of adversity, how to get up every day, sometimes when you don't always feel like it, because you're doing it for them. It's the kind of, your example is what they're looking at. So raising yourself by taking care of yourself physically, taking care of yourself emotionally, mentally, creating a house of kind of house around yourself. You're the person that you can go to in times of need. Your own heart you can dig into. It's kind of a weird concept, but like, oh, I need strength. So how do I get that? I get to close my eyes. That's the yoga part of me. I get to close my eyes and breathe. I create space between myself and the rest of the world and the rest of the adversity by just taking a few breaths, calming myself down, putting your best foot forward for the kids, even if you lose it, being able to turn to them and go, you know what? Being realistic, being honest. I screwed up. I was this way. I shouldn't have been this way. Being
Yes.
very honest, not above reproach, understanding when you
Yes.
hurt your kids. So
Oh
just
my
kind
gosh,
of
yes.
just being honest and open about both your tenderness, your failings, what you did wrong, what you did right, um, for your kids just makes them feel you're human so they can be human as well. I don't know if
Love
I
that.
just went around the corner there. I am a very
No, but no,
No.
it's so true. I mean, like if I'm not showing up for me or and I can't be honest with like I'm not a perfect person. And I think that there's some level of hierarchy supposedly. I mean, Elena and I were both grew up, respect your elders, right? But elders can make mistakes. Look at our current administration. They're living proof of it. So just because someone is older or potentially has a title that in some way is structurally outranks a person does not mean that they're blameless, faultless, but also that they can be a role model and they can do all of that. And so you charging yourself with what you need to be that person, it's really just a helpful reminder because I don't know, sometimes like that's something I forget is that I'm people like my intention and my impact are different and people don't always see my intention, but they
right,
always see my impact. My
right,
kids especially.
Well,
right.
it's also interesting too, because so all three of us have been teachers in some facet,
Mhm.
and I never made the connection that you were talking about, Kelly. That they're watching what you're doing. I was always so intentional about it when I was in a classroom or when I was working with other peers. I was intentional about like presenting my best self. But I had more energy. I had more time to put into that. I was able to come as my best self often. And I never really was able to identify that the pressure I put on myself around little ones, like my kids, is very different, or even my nephews, is very different because I I know the impact and I know that they're getting more of me than they're going to get of anybody else. So there's this pressure and this
Mhm.
stamina to keep up when you're also at your most exhausted stage
Mhm.
when your kids are so little. Which
Yeah.
I think is really important because one of the questions I asked you, because you're also my kids yogi, is when should yoga and meditation start, or when can it start? When can it be effective to introduce to? I mean, is it an any age thing? Is it a specific kind of person take more away from it thing? Like, where does it come into play, really?
Well, for me, little kids, for the flexibility aspect, the poses shouldn't come really till later, only because their joints are not really formed well. There's no need to. They're all, you know how they're rubber bands and flexible. It can be a little challenging, and I do like things like tree pose or cat cow, things that aren't going to mess like with their joints. I don't do super hyper flexible things, but all the tenets of yoga, because what we practice with little kids, and especially in the United States, is the asana limb or the pose part, the exercise part of yoga. But pranayama or breath, the namas and yamas, which are the tenets of yoga, are taught basically from birth: cleanliness, um, eating healthy, being someone who doesn't attach, non-judgment, all these things we teach every day. And those things you start teaching when your kids are little. How to share, how not to judge others, how to sit and meditate and calm the nervous system through breath. These are all things that you can start. Hey, take a deep breath when your kids are crying. I shouldn't say take a deep breath. When your kids are crying, you got to tell them to blow out. That's what stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system. You know how they go, I can't take a breath. You know, they get freaked. I'm not going to take a breath. If you tell them to go, they'll calm down, because that stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve. So we have this we can do that with little kids from the time they're tiny. Breathing with your kids, bringing your hands to each other's heart and feeling the breath come up. Just these little connections you can do at any age. And the meditation that comes later, they're kind of not wired for that first thing when they're little. They're wired to experience and to like move and talk and run around, but you can still do the breath and you can teach the other tenets of yoga, compassion. But there's 8 limbs of yoga. We only really talk about 3 of them, like meditation, breath, and the poses in the United States for the most part. The others are more Buddhist tenets, which very much dovetail with almost literally every other religion on the planet. You find those same tenets. It's all very much throughout. The Buddhism is a practice. It's a way of life. It's not necessarily a religion. It's just those same tenets can run through anybody's faith. It can't be deciphered. You can find these tenets of self control, all of that stuff in every single belief system. So it's kind of cool.
That is really
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
I have some like children's books that I love that talk about the colors and the chakras and do a couple of kids poses and stuff. But I do think that in the United States, I'm going to use the term whitewashing, and correct me if that's not right. But it doesn't seem like, first off, hearing more and learning more about yoga every day, it's so interesting to know that there's so little that communally in the United States we don't know about yoga. But I feel like the more people know about yoga and meditation, it should really be part of curriculum in schools. Like, why are we're teaching social emotional learning? That's like the new hot thing that I feel like, and it's not so new, but people are being more intentional about it. Why are we not doing that in the United States? Because I know that other cultures start children young with yoga and it's like kind of part of the culture. But if we know the impact of meditation and yoga is so powerful and it helps to raise humans and ourselves, why do you think that's not happening in the United States?
I think because a lot of it has like a religious connotation. I don't
Oh,
practice
okay.
it at a religious connotation. So there are some people who are like, why are you bringing Buddhism or whatever into the school? Um, I've had that as a resistance because I used to be on the school board at Fairport, and some people wanted to have that part of the gym curriculum, not understand, not any of the other tenets, just the
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 physical.
posing parts. And
Yeah.
people were like, isn't that oming? Isn't that stuff? And it's like, no, not that part. You can separate the pieces. I think a lot of schools do. I know where my youngest son went to school, they would put on in a study hall this really very mellow music, and they would have them sit either with their head on their desk or sit it up straight, and they would do these breath exercises, which is the same thing. They
Hmm.
just call it I can't remember what they called it, but it was just kind of a weird word that was like, oh, that's meditation, but they don't call it that.
Okay.
Um, so it does get incorporated a little bit. I just think that the stumbling block is people don't know enough about it, and they really put like this is a foreign Eastern religion that we're bringing into the school, and it's not. And I think it's getting more common now, though. There is yoga in gyms sometimes, um, but I don't think most phys ed instructors are taught or are certified in yoga because there is quite a process because you're dealing with so much anatomy that it's very specific not to cause injury, overstretching, hurting the joints. I've gone into a couple schools, multiple schools. As a matter of fact, many years ago, I have to throw this plug out. I did yoga for the hockey team at Bishop Kearney, which had Olympians in it in this last in this
That's
last
so
thing.
cool.
So I
Yeah,
taught them
5
many
in
years.
fact.
Yeah, many years ago, I did a yoga class just for the hockey team. So that was really fun.
Wow.
I like to do it for athletes in particular because I think it helps in the sport
Mm.
with range of motion, also with mental acuity and not stressing and non-attachment, those kind of flow uh, energy that you can get with athletes. But yeah, so it does happen. Usually specific sports teams will call you in, but it's not universal. I just think it has some negative religious, and I say religious because it's a practice. It's not a religion. It's a lifestyle. It's not, and I think people sometimes get nervous about introducing that to kids. And I understand. Everybody has their own belief system, but if people could
Sure.
just get like, this is really just about calming the vagus nerve. This is a very physical activity. This is a very physical reaction that we tell kids to do all the time. But we're
Yeah.
just not saying it with yoga. Like, you need to calm down. You need to take a deep breath. Why are we saying that to kids?
Sure.
Because they know that if they do, it'll calm them down. And
Right.
that's what breathing, that's what yoga is, what pranayama is using breath to calm yourself down. But we just got to take this otherness out of every good idea and just
Yeah.
and use different language. And I do use different language no matter where I go. I'll call it one thing here, I'll call it another thing here. If I'm in a studio, I'm very true to the language. If I'm at the Y or a neutral spot like a school, I don't use this Sanskrit terms. I use regular words. I don't ohm. I just breathe. We just take a few breaths together. I don't use any foreign things that could put people off. I just use the language that we use every day. So you just kind of cater it to your audience. I think that would be helpful, I think, in a yoga
Yeah.
situation.
So, given that we understand that the tenets are things that humanity needs for coping and regulation and functioning, I'm curious, how does that present? Like, what does emotional regulation actually look like in your home and on hard days since you regularly practice this?
Oh, it's so funny. We talk about this. I was 40 when I started practice. So I've been doing it for now it'll be 15 years. So my
You
daughter
mean
was out
15 months because you
Right.
still look
You
40.
don't age, Kelly.
yoga. I'm telling you.
There you
It's
go.
awesome.
And you're never sick, and you always say it's because of yoga.
It is. I'm not sick. I'm never sick. That is true. I'm going to knock on everything.
I know
but
I'm
not
knocking
very
for you.
because I'll go around with little sick kids. I'm like, I'm fine. But the part of that is stress. I think a lot of times when we get sick as we get older, it's stress related. Our immune system gets lowered. So I'm not stressed much anymore. But I
Wow.
started this practice when I was 40, so my daughter was already 20. So she didn't get the Kelly that did the yoga. But what regulation means to me is I actually, and this is my nature. This is not something that I don't want anybody to feel that I'm like, you need to do this because this is just how I am. I really approach things with an eye on, I'm going to have a good time. And I know it sounds
That's
really
awesome.
weird, but if I'm going to play with my kids on the floor, I'm going to have a good time doing it. If I'm going to cook a dinner, I'm going to have a good time doing it. If that means putting music on. So there was this, I always had kind of a coping thing. So my kids always saw me as someone who tried to balance the fun with the toil. And so I actually was going to get a tattoo that said no toil, no reward, because my kids think that's funny. So just because it's kind of true. So
It
I
is.
would do things like, all right, time to make dinner, and the kids would be doing something, and I'd put music on, let Kevin take all the stuff from the cupboards and just sit in the room and take all his stuff out, make a disaster, and then make dinner and then put the stuff away. But he always saw me kind of trying to at least make some fun out of what it is I was doing. And I think that helped them know that even when times are tough, we'll have a good time. The good times will happen again. There's always going to be another moment where we can enjoy things. This too shall pass. Nothing is permanent. And I've always kind of kept impermanence as something that I've held in my heart. Like the season that we're raising our children will not last. Them having that cold or flu will not last. Us going to this vacation will not last. So just every time something was going on, impermanence, non-attachment. This isn't going to be forever. And I think just having that helps you regulate because you're not fixated or focused on what's happening at that moment to the extent where it's the end of the world. And I think with my kids, Kevin was the most, I called his name. He's going to listen to this and go, you said my name. But he knows. He knows. He was, sometimes when you're really, really smart, things worry you a lot. Mm-hmm. And your mind races and you get anxiety. But just meeting that anxiety with a solution or a possibility or a future thought sometimes really helps.
A next step.
Yeah. So he'd come down in a tizzy and we'd talk it out. And then he would say, and I'd go, okay, so what's the reality here? What's really the problem, the crux? And, that's something we can do something about. Or, sorry, we can't do anything about that. Sometimes that happens in life. I can't run out right now and get you a new toy because you broke this one. For example, I'm just throwing out examples.
Right.
So sometimes we break our toys. So maybe next time we're more careful. And that explanation helped them a little bit. Like, no judgment. This isn't a problem. This is nothing. We'll get through this. We're just going to have to wait tomorrow. Just this kind of regular honesty, conversation. And also, if my kid didn't want to wear pants, and I'll name Jack, this is one of my favorite stories. He did not want to wear pants ever. And so
sounds like my kid.
Yeah. Now, I don't force my children to do anything that's not required by society. So if, for example, he doesn't want to eat a piece of broccoli, don't eat a piece of broccoli. When you're an adult, you're going to not have to eat a piece of broccoli. So who cares if he eats? He'll eat. He'll eat the broccoli eventually, or he'll eat something else, whatever. If he doesn't want to wear pants, he has to wear pants. He can't walk around naked from the waist down like Porky Pig when he's 25 years old. So I have to teach him that's a norm that we do. So when he would throw a tantrum about pants, I never said a word. This has always been funny. People would look and he'd be kicking and screaming and I'm just putting on pants. And I'm lifting him up and I'm putting on the pants. I'm not arguing. I'm not making a statement. I'm not giving him a reason. He's not going to take my reason.
You can't rationalize with an upset child. Yes, yeah. Right.
So I just physically did it. And I remember Jordan saying, you were mad because I wouldn't wear pants. Like because she also didn't want to wear pants. But these are the kind of things that I dealt with. But I know that that's required. No, you can't touch a stove. No, you can't do that. And there's no argument. There's no explanation. It's just like, no, we're doing this. Mm-hmm. If you make a decision on what you might want to wear, you make a decision about what you might want to eat. You give them the autonomy that they're going to have as adults. Because we're teaching them to be functioning adults, not well-behaved children. I believe that's
burn compliance at the stake.
Yes. My dad said to me once, you can say no to me anytime. You should say no to even me. You can tell me where to go if you feel that. Like my dad and I would have really long as teenager discussions. My mom and I would have knocked down, drag out fights because we were allowed to communicate our likes, dislikes to an adult in a safe space where we could advocate for ourselves. We weren't told you can't speak to us that way. We weren't told you have to obey this rule at all costs. Like there was conversations. But there are some things you don't negotiate, and those are the things that they're going to have to be as adults. You have to respect other people. You have to be kind to other people. That's how I feel. Um, and um, you have to be able to survive on your own. You have to be able to pay your bills. And no matter what you do, it's fine with me as long as it lets you survive on the outside. Doesn't You don't have to be a doctor. You can be an artist. You could be an engineer, whatever you want. But you just have to make sure you can take care of yourself. That's it. There's no other requirement.
Yeah.
It's what's so interesting to me is how profound you speak, and like the notion of raising functioning adults, which I actually love and have never thought about that, because like right now my kids are young and their daily responsibility is play, right? Eat, survive, play, right? But what's so interesting to me, and our listeners won't know this, but Elena and I do. Before becoming a parent, you weren't even sure you wanted children. So the fact that the way in which you parent and how potentially that's even shaped your perspective, I'd be curious to know, like, after growing and birthing humans, how did you reconnect with yoga and the reality of how you wanted to raise functioning adults and the like?
And I would also add how. So there's something that Marissa and I have recently learned about in the last few years, which is each of your children has a different version of you as a parent. Yeah. You're never the same parent to every single child. I wonder how that also plays into how you were raising yourself while you were raising each of your children and how that changed over time.
Well, it's definitely a raising yourself situation because I was 19 when I got pregnant for my daughter and in college. So think about a 19-year-old me, what my goals were, right? So I wanted to be an actress. I wanted or involved in writing or creating some type of art in the movie or television medium. And I was doing that at school. When I stopped and thought, I'm like, okay, right now I'm having this child and I really want to make sure I can provide food. I can't really, and some people can. I couldn't. I can't split my attention like that in terms of I'm going to go for this career and have this. That's great. I love it. People can do that. I can't. I just know myself. I'm either all in or I'm not. So I made different plans. I thought, okay, I'll just get a job. No big deal. My mom used to say plan B. When I told her plan B, she said, when I told her I was pregnant, like, we're going to do something else. And then when I started to do that, I dabbled a little. So I'm the queen of the side gig. So when I worked a regular job, I took my yoga teacher training. Like, I'm working a job, I have enough money, I'm going to take a yoga teacher training. One of my jobs when I was a stay-at-home, because I stayed at home with my youngest, was that I worked for an artist whose name's David Coles. I give him a plug. He's a genius. And David, I was his assistant. So I kept my little hand in there. And then we started doing videos and he started doing cartoons. I'm sitting right there. Mac, I'm an actress. And he's like, want to do cartoon voices. So I got to do that. So these little dips.
H2O hero, man. That was so great.
And just dipping my toe into that with him. Then when Rob, my husband, he's a musician, he writes songs. Let me help you write songs. So just keeping these little creative nuggets alive. It doesn't have to be your whole life. You can have a regular job and a regular career as a mom and just do these things for fun. It doesn't have to make money. Not all dreams can come true, but what you can do is just play in it when you can. And it might be years, like it was almost 10 years before I even started doing any of that stuff because Kevin was so little. And so, but being patient and just saying, again, tomorrow is another day. This too shall pass. I remember holding Jordan. Oh my gosh. I'm watching David Letterman. I'm breastfeeding. I'm 20 years old at the time. I'm going, what is happening? I can't believe this is my life. Oh. And I just went, 18 years. I just got to write out 18 years. I actually said those words. It's a horrible thing to admit, but it's true. I got to do this for 18 years, then I'm done. This is what well, then I have Jack, then I have Kevin 10 years later. Like, but it's like, it was just this nope, I got time. This is not going to be forever. I can dabble, saying yes to different opportunities. It was just, that's kind of how I reconnected with all those things. Then once the
Wow.
pandemic hit and my son went off to, last one goes off
Oh
to
man,
college, I'm
yeah.
like, I got nothing but time. I'm all about me now. I don't have to have dinner on the table because I was really big into having dinner on the table. And that was my choice. That wasn't imposed on me. I'm Italian on my mom's side. I have dinner on that table at 5 o'clock, no matter what. And that's just how I was raised. It's not a pressure. It's just kind of how I was. But then I realized I didn't have to do that. So a friend of mine asked if I wanted to work with her on a literary press, and it got really big, and I'm going, geez, this is really cool. And then I met people through that who wanted me to work in their film, on their films, either through acting or directing, or assistant directing. And I'm just like, this is great. I get to do all this stuff now. I have time, I have the patience, um and I have it in perspective now because I had the three
Love
kids.
that.
And it's
Yes.
not oh, this isn't the be all and end all. This isn't technically necessarily what I want to do with all my time either. The yoga thing was kind of my side gig because I love to exercise, because I'm absolutely a crazy person, but I do love to exercise. So it was a way to keep myself in that sphere and not have to run anymore. Because at 40, my hips were like saying, don't run, don't do this anymore. And then I switched to yoga, but it was always kind of part of my life. I've always liked to do a little extra something for my creative side or fun side. Because I truly believe that when you work a job, it could either be your life's work. That's awesome if you find it. But sometimes it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it can just be the bill payer and you find your joy in something else.
Well, that. So I know you talked about being the queen of the side gigs, but from everything I know about you, and this is literally because I'm just so type A. So many parents like myself feel pressured to model stability over passion, and I appreciate everything that you just said, which wasn't necessarily sacrificing passion. It was just finding when you had the time. But even still, I'm really curious about how you navigated the tension between security and joy while raising your kids, because you clearly did it. I want to know how. What's it like? If there's more to elaborate on than what you just shared.
I have this thing, and I want, I would just take this with love. There's no such thing as stability. There isn't.
Okay.
Everything changes. We can't
Oh
control
yeah.
the outside forces in our life. We can't control death, which we all go through. We can't control what our spouse does. We can't control what our children do, for real. We can do it to a certain extent, but eventually they leave. Eventually the world has them for half the day. We can't control it. Getting my mind out of the fact that things had to be perfect and stable and safe, that's not the world as we are seeing right now. And to have
Yeah.
adults that can navigate the ebb and flow. Maybe mom wasn't there some nights because she was doing cartoon voices for fun, and they got to watch the cartoon I was in. Like maybe mom wasn't there because she was running. I have three exceptional athletes because
Yes, you
they
do.
like, oh, mom runs, let's run. Like they see what you're doing for your passion, and it might clue them, since they are part of you and part of of course, your DNA. They might find their passion through what you're doing. So you're doing the podcast and your kids are seeing you do that.
Mm.
Maybe one of them goes, think I might like that. And I'm going to do that. So it isn't about even stability. It's about, you're a whole human being. They need to be whole human beings in this world. And so they need to see you as one.
Mm.
I've
And
never
if
heard you talk about stability like that. I didn't, I'm trying to grasp it in real time. And I'm like, so is stability an illusion or is it
well,
like a
on a
societal
sense,
thing?
here's why. The only thing we can be is stable for them. So our behavior has to
Yeah.
be stable. Me having joy and having fun, passion is not instability. Me not cooking or giving them food, me not giving them love, me not giving them a home and clothing, me not being dependable for them if they have a permission slip that they can't count on me to get their permissions. That's instability. This is
Okay.
stable. My world is stable. My kids know who I am, where I am. The instability comes from the rest of the world. So I'm not going to try to control their experience. Their experience is theirs. They have to be able to navigate. What I'm going to control is the place they land. And that's all
Okay.
I can control.
Well,
But stability in me having a grand old time only makes them have a grand old time. That's kind of
yeah.
how, because then I'm happy. I'm not resentful. I think about it. I really had kids. I joked for 30 something years. I had
Right.
kids from the time I was 20 till I was 53. I had kids in the house. And that's a long time to not do anything for yourself in terms of, or putting yourself second. And you
Yes,
do.
right.
There's no way you're not going to. But they never saw resentment
Right.
for that loss because there is
What a
none.
gift.
There's
Yes,
none.
but
I did everything
what
I
a
wanted to do. So there's no resentment because I didn't feel that guilt. So when you look at these perfect pictures that people are painting, like, give me, I can tell you that it's not true. I
Right.
know it's not true because I know it wasn't true for me.
Hmm.
People have perfect lives, I guess, but I don't think so. I've never met anybody in person who does. And I think if we can let go of the expectation of what other people are seeing, because we're also on the freaking display for entire thousands and hundreds of thousands of people all the time, that we will be like, oh no, I'm perfectly fine. Everything I'm doing is just fine. I don't need to jar my own sauce or whatever the heck people do. And my kid doesn't need to be in constant state of learning. Like it's it's getting crazy. And I think that that's
yes.
what people are feeling so much pressure in their own lives to put themselves and sacrifice themselves on the altar of what everyone else thinks, instead of saying, gosh, am I displaying my happiness to my kids or am I just displaying drudgery? That's why kids don't want to have kids these days. Could almost guarantee you that.
Wow.
It's drudgery. Who wants to do all that? I don't want to do all that.
Well, I
Well,
respect people who know that they don't want to have kids though, because as someone who like
Mm.
from a very young age was like, the only thing I want to be is a mom, which you
yes.
know me, you both know me very well. That doesn't
That's
really
true.
track with everything else I believe or want in life. But it was really the one thing I wanted. I was like, if
Hmm.
I have a partner, I'll figure it
Yes,
out,
being
blah,
a
blah, blah.
mom and being a
But
teacher. Those were two things that I knew to be absolute truths about what Elena wanted.
Yes,
yeah,
I
like
would
a
agree.
forever learner. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think you're getting to, and the reason that we feel like this season is so important is because we are still raising ourselves. So when we talk about raising humans, a lot of times people talk about kids. But one of the biggest things that I feel like I realized after, so I had the twins and then the last one, so my youngest. And after having my youngest, I felt very lost. So I had three kids under 2.5 and had a miscarriage in between. And before I had the twins, I had several miscarriages. And my body had gone through really major surgeries even before that. And I came out of it and I was like, okay, mom of three, like, this is the life. Like, this is amazing. I didn't have postpartum depression. I did end up finding out that I have something else, but I didn't find out until later. And when you talked to me about yoga and you phrased it as coming home to yourself, I think that goes back to your stability piece that you've been talking about. Is I wish everyone before leaving the hospital had some kind of guidance, whether you have a partner or not, of the importance of coming home to yourself and not doing what society expects you to do postpartum. Not bounce back, not be the perfect parent, not have all of this drudgery as you called it, but to sit there and be like, this is my first time on earth. This is their first time on earth. How cool is it that we get to do this together?
Hmm.
And how cool is it that we're both like, I'm raising you for a period of time to be whoever you want to be, not who I want you to be, I think is
Hmm.
another fundamental thing that I've learned about raising myself and raising humans and unlearning a lot of what I learned as a child. But I think the coming home to yourself conversation is something that every parent needs. I really do. Or anyone who comes in contact with a child at all who's a learning mentor, or whether you're a sensei or a dance teacher or just a community member, if you come in contact with younger people to say, what is it that makes you come home to yourself? What is it that makes you feel like your best self? Not your best performative self, but your best self. I think that if people were asked that question more often, the world would be in a much different place. And I think a lot of what you do that I've learned from you is that it's not just about yoga or meditation or having fun all the time or joy, but it's about the consistency of curiosity and wanting to learn and wanting to learn more about yourself. And that's what I love about therapy. Like, I will plug therapy every day. Everyone should be in therapy. It's the best way to get to know yourself better. It's the best way to unlearn things and learn things. I really believe that. But I feel like part of this too, and I'm not there yet with my kids, but like, how do we help people, whether it's ourselves or young people, have conversations about purpose and fulfillment and value? And you also talked about being unattached, like that unattachment theory, but still being attached to yourself and having meaningful relationships. Like, are there things that you've learned that you feel like you would want to pass on to others?
Yeah, I really think, and I think I wrote this down, and I just want to like look at it for a minute because there was something that I really want to establish, and that was values, of course, are lived values. And so we should be living them. We should be very conscious of how what we're saying that we say matches action.
Mm,
Yes.
Um,
yes.
and I
That's how
want
trust is
people,
built.
and that kids are their own beings, separate from our experience.
Yes.
So the values, we can tell our values all the time. We could tell and try to form and shape and be very vocal and talkative about that. But what we want to understand is they may or may not be the same. They are literally separate beings.
Right.
So what we do is we model the behavior that we want them to show the world and to them as well. So it's not just respect and trust from them to us, it's us to them. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to give a dumb example, but it's funny. I I said to my kids' rooms, I never, and I mean this, and this is people will think I'm crazy. I never searched through their rooms, ever. I never entered their rooms and searched their drawers. I never there was never a behavior that would warrant it, first of all. Like I never was like, what's happening? That's not for everybody. But the reason being is they have a right to their autonomy. They were 5, 7, 10, 11, 12 years old. I was fairly aware of where they were at all times. There was no behavior that would indicate any other thing. So I never assumed the bad behavior because I want them to be trusting and trustworthy. If I go behind their back and I sneak and I look at their stuff and then confront them with it, just say, I've broken a trust. So why would they trust me?
Mm-hmm.
So if I saw behavior, I'd say, hey, let's have a conversation. It was very rare, but let's have a conversation. And we talked. I knew when my kids had their first drink. I know when my kids experienced sex for the first time. They told me.
Mm-hmm.
I never had to to sneak because the conversation was open and they could trust that I hadn't gone through their stuff. They could trust that there was a two-way street. So if you have a value of trust and honesty, you have to be honest and trustworthy with your kids.
I just had a breakthrough moment that I just needed to point out because so by not going through their stuff and waiting till they came meant that they got to control the narrative, which is really important when you like my company is a great example of this. Like or getting called to the principal's office, right? When you get called to the principal's office and you have no context, you then start making conclusions in your brain. And if you snoop and find something, then you start making the conclusions, right? But if you wait until they approach you, it took me, I'm today years old before I thought about why it's so empowering that you waited for them, not only because of the trust that you built, but also just what that allows for them. And you also, as a mom, I think, can gauge dishonesty or if they're not being their authentic
You have a
selves,
BS
right?
detector on
Yeah,
like
right,
anything I've ever
exactly.
seen.
But ultimately,
have
like,
everyone's
Because
number.
I was horrible as a
wow.
kid. So I know all the tricks. I
There
can
we
tell
go.
they're like I have eyes in the
I
back of my.
lived it.
Like, that's not true. I know they're not taking. Why? Well, because But again, there was very little, and again, they were very involved in stuff. There wasn't a ton of time for them to get. Every kid is different, so you
Yeah,
will see through their behavior if you're paying attention, the change in it. That's
sure.
when you have these conversations. You don't need to snoop for it. Ask them,
Yeah. Wow.
and they
Yeah.
Yeah.
most likely won't. They'll lie. Everybody does. All kids do at some point. They don't want their parents to
Omit.
be ashamed.
They'll omit, right?
Omit,
Yeah.
oh, have you been drinking? No. And you're like, okay, well, when you're ready to talk about this, we can have a conversation about drinking. Like, I'm not going to argue. Yes, you
Yeah.
were, and don't lie to me. Like, of course they're going to lie. Everybody feels that sense of shame at first, because they don't.
Right.
They want to gauge the parental reaction. And
Right.
Absolutely.
if they'll lie, and if you go, you're lying, I know because I called your friend and all this, it's just like we just want to get to the solution and have a realistic conversation about what's going on. And it doesn't need to be filled with judgment. That's the non-attachment. Doesn't need to be filled with judgment. It can be filled with curiosity, like Elena, you were saying, you're a
Yes.
lifetime learner. Curiosity, understanding, also self-reflection. You're always growing, you're trying to grow yourself, because guess what I did when I was 16? I drank. So to go hog on your kids, like, how dare you, as you sit there as a functioning adult who drank underage, is a silly hill to die on, because you know better than that. You know
Yes.
that you're sitting there alive. Not everybody becomes has a disease. Not everybody falls into that. Sometimes you're just curious, and to judge that harshly over things that you did, they can smell a rat a mile away. Kids are not,
And it
they're
does break
not stupid.
trust.
It
It breaks
does.
a
And
Yes.
relationship because
Yes.
when someone presents themselves as infallible or as above reproach, you brought up drinking. In that sense, when we found out that one of our parents drank underage, but have been
Oh
touting
yeah.
how not to do it, we were like, peace out. We're going to go drink now.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
it's
Do as I
hypocrisy.
say, not
Not
as
as
I
I
do.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hypocrisy, and there is a
Right.
sense of the parent does have experience.
Right.
So for example, let's just talk about marijuana, for example, before it was legal here in New York. So I remember one of my kids saying, because I never said not to do anything. That was not, I wasn't a discussion like, don't do this and don't do that. What I would say, and this is funny, like for my son, I'm like, he goes, I smoked weed. I go, oh, really? What'd you think? And he told me, and I go, well, it's not legal here right now. So the ramifications you got to weigh out. It's not legal to drink underage, and it's not legal to smoke marijuana underage. So, or at all. And so if you're going to do that, you got to really think of this as is the hill you want to die on for your future.
Yeah.
That was the end of it. And not until college, until it was legal here, did he started it. Like, it's just like, oh, what are the ramifications, the real life
Right.
ramifications? You're not going to necessarily become on the streets home. Like, we have this overblown, and we're telling kids these stories, and like the real
It's like the
ramification, it's
Chris Farley
illegal.
down by the river, right? Like,
Yes, and the
yes, I know,
van's out.
right?
Now all
Go.
of a sudden you've lost your college. And I mean, I've
Yeah,
been to
right.
college. I know how much substances we did in college, and I passed college. Like be realistic. The fright, the scare, it doesn't work necessarily. But you have to be honest about who you were and what your experience was. And what you know to be true. You're going to get arrested and get a misdemeanor or a whatever. And do you really want that? And none of my kids wanted that.
Right.
That's because that's
Who really
I can't-
does?
like who does? But that's kind of life. These are the things as teenagers you navigate. The little guys not so much. But I really like teenagers. Maybe because I had my child when I was a teenager, still was. But I really like that age, because it's like they're about to be 18 and adults, and they can, and once that happens, They're adults and they have to make decisions on their own. And we can help, we can support financially, we can do what we can. But there is a real come to Jesus where you're like,
There's a relief.
you have to take responsibility for your own actions, and I can't control those actions. So here's my advice. Kevin came once and he was after like 2 weeks after his 18th birthday, and he tells me this whole litany of what this decision he's made, and it was not a good one. I was like, and I'm sitting at the counter and I'm chopping, and he's like, "So what do you think?" I go, "Great." He goes, "You don't have anything to say?" I go, "No, that's the decision you made. That's the decision you made." And he goes, "You're not going to tell me if it's good or bad?" And I go, "It doesn't matter what I think. Do you want my advice?" And then he goes, "Yes." I go, "Okay, then I'll give it to you." But I didn't go, "That's a stupid idea. Why would you?" Like, he's an 18, he's a man in the eyes of the law. And so I can't control what he does technically, nor am I responsible for what he does
I think that that's a
technically.
life hack for adults who will become parents to adult children is just sit and listen. Just
Yeah.
sit and listen. And if they ask you for advice, then you give it. Don't
Yeah.
just give out free advice because you think that you're being whatever. You're not. Whatever you think you're going to accomplish, trust and believe you will not. So I will end with this. This is the final question we ask all of our guests. We believe raising humans is one of the most powerful learning spaces. What lesson do you hope we start teaching more consciously and collectively around the world to make permanent and positive change?
All right, so I'm going to get preachy. We need to elect people to run our systems who reflect our values. Literally,
Amen.
end of story. You talk about the biggest hypocrisy of all time. You cannot tell your kids to be kind, loving, non-discriminatory, caring human beings and then vote the exact opposite way. They see what you're voting for, they know what you're up to, and they know it's hypocrisy. They're not stupid.
Listen
Some
up,
may,
listeners.
but you can't say do all this then when everything in their face is the exact opposite. And we're revering and giving people control and power over our future. So that's my preachiness for the day. That's it. That's what I hope we learn. Just vote the way you really believe and not what people tell you believe.
Love that. Yep. I think that that's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today. We will post everywhere where people can connect with you, but can you just name a couple of the places where they can connect with you?
We're at the Roffaneant Press, ROIFAINEANT press.com, and that's our actual press. Our YouTube is just Roffaneant Press, same thing, is on the YouTube, and that's where all the interviews are. Deep End is on Awesome, the streaming service Fossum, and there's one other, I can't remember what it is, rerun. I'll send it in, it can be in the show notes or whatever. I can't remember the streaming service. You can watch it there. I am starting my own YouTube channel as well called Bad at Yoga, where people who really cannot stand yoga and hate every minute of it can go to learn different poses, different like terminology, so they don't feel so lost if they do decide to go to a class. A lot of people don't feel comfortable in a classroom situation because they feel
Still me.
pretty judged. Yeah, they feel
Thanks
judged.
for the arrow.
See you on your YouTube channel, Kelly.
And so it'll be like little 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes videos of just how to do certain poses and what they're there for, little sequences and what you do them for. So that kind of thing, so you can feel comfortable, all levels. And I hope it comes up within the next couple months. I'm filming the intro for it on Sunday, so should be fun.
Yay!
Awesome.
So
That's
exciting.
great.
Well, thank you again, and we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Great time.
Kelly. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Everything is Learning. If you loved this episode, share it, subscribe to hear more awesome content, and let's keep the conversation going. Stay curious and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.